Injuries and unreliable pitching is pretty much the definition of the 2022 Red Sox season, and it all unfolded right in front of us in Game 1 of the Toronto Blue Jays series.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I am your host, Massachusetts Pirates team insider and production assistant for the WooSox, Jake Ignaszewski, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, NESN's Lauren Willand. And wow, this is the first time I've hosted since you got married. I'm very proud of myself that I didn't say Campbell, because I said to you, I'm like, you got to remind me because it's so ingrained in my mind. We've done so many of these.
You did good. I'm proud of you. You got the Twitter handle down like it's nothing, and now new last name. You're a pro.
Sometimes I do screw it up, and I do gotta cut it perfectly so it doesn't seem like it. But I'm getting there. I'm learning. But unfortunately, the Red Sox aren't learning to really manage their pitching staff too well. Unfortunately, injuries kind of put them into a tough situation with starting Josh Winkowski on short notice. But unfortunately, he struggled once again against this Toronto Blue Jays loaded offense and lineup. And that was something that I was sort of nervous about. We've seen Winkowski not be able to be a reliable starter on the mound for the Red Sox so far in his career. And this was his first time against the Blue Jays. And unfortunately, everything sort of blew up in that third inning.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, Josh Winkowski's here because more injuries upon injuries, and even though he was on regular rest, it's still, you're getting that call from Worcester or wherever the WooSox are, and they're like, all right, time to go back to Boston. And he knows he was sent down because he was struggling so bad, especially through his last 7 starts.
Mm-hmm.
And to come in and to just kind of struggle again and to just blow it up and just not be able to have any control, any command, and not bounce back the way you obviously would hope after a string of bad starts. But it's unfortunate, and as long as Eovaldi's on the IL, I feel like Josh Winkowski will be here because he did replace Eovaldi on the roster. It's just messy. The Blue Jays are a very good team, yes, but we are now at the end of August, and I just feel like the theme of this season, we've just said, well, they're a good team. They're a good team. There's injuries. There's this. Yes, the Red Sox have been bitten by the injury bug, but they've been so bad against the Blue Jays this year that Tuesday gave me no hope for me to think that they're going to turn it around against the Blue Jays or really even any AL East opponent at this point.
And you would think at the start of the season, like when we're talking about the Blue Jays, that would mean a little bit more weight than what their statistics in record currently shows. I mean, on paper, great team, loaded lineup, but at the same time, they're not too much better in record-wise than the Red Sox. Or they're very close with the Rays, but they're underachieving to what most people expected this team to be able to do with how much they did during this offseason. And as you mentioned, their offense was on full display in that third inning. Red Sox ended up allowing 8 total earned runs. We saw Winkowski allow 6 earned, and then Austin Davis tried to come in, clean it up, didn't do too well in doing that, allowed 2 more runs, and then later in the 7th, Sawamura allowed another run. But especially with how important this stretch is against AL East teams, the Red Sox just aren't playing, I guess, with that sense of urgency, or things are just not rolling their way.
No, certainly not. And you would think with how many players are on the IL, and yes, they are a lot of key players, but you would think that they'd have that next man up mentality that we have seen, not necessarily from the 2022 team, but in previous Red Sox teams. We've seen them be able to step up. And this is when maybe they didn't have a lot of depth in the farm system, but they were able to just kind of have that next man up mentality, be able to win games, or at least play competitive baseball. The Red Sox are playing competitive baseball. We'd be singing a completely different tune right now, but they're not. They don't even look competitive out there. You have Christian Arroyo doing stupid slides feet first into first base. You have just everything going wrong for the Red Sox. And you have Rob Refschneider misplaying, having a do or die play out in right field. Yeah, right field. And the end result was not due. And there's just no, I don't know if it's just lack of depth. I don't know if it's lack of urgency. I don't know if this team has just kind of thrown in the towel and just been like, well, this is a lost season. It's August. We're 6-7 games out of the wild card spot. Yes, it's still within reach, but the amount of injuries that keep piling up, the way they keep playing, and the way they keep losing against AL East teams, like, I would almost rather this team not make the postseason, get embarrassed in the wild card, than just don't make the postseason, have a full off season, get yourselves healthy, whoever continues to be injured, 100% healthy, and just look toward 2023.
As you said, those injuries really have started to pile up, and we're going to break everything down like that in the second segment. But thank God, as you mentioned with Christian Arroyo, it didn't go the Red Sox usual bad news way of him getting injured, because he's the hottest guy in the lineup right now, hitting 377 over the last 20 games. Also, got a really nice double off the wall to eventually be the first run for the Red Sox after Kike Hernandez drove him in the second inning. But as you said, they really haven't looked great, especially recently against AL East teams. And I even had a friend from work ask me honestly, with how everything's set up for this team, and even though they're 5 games out of the wild card, do you see them finding a way to sneak into that playoff spot? And I said to him, as a Red Sox fan, I'm always going to believe, but as a baseball fan, with the depth that they have and with the injuries that they have, it's tough for me to put my full confidence in a yes. And it's something where as well, you mentioned with Josh Winkowski probably going to have to fill in until Nathan Eovaldi's out. And, we probably won't see him until the end of August. And weirdly enough, and, I saw this on MajorLeagueTradeRumors.com this afternoon, Garrett Richards is available. I don't want him back, but it's depth. And, if you're able to, sign him, see what happens, and slot him into that Winkowski role. I didn't love Garrett Richards here whatsoever, but I don't think he's going to give you as bad of a start as we've seen from Josh Winkowski the last few games.
I just think the Red Sox should just stay away from anyone who's played on this team in the last year or two that they even want to think about bringing back. It's just, I don't want to call this like, they're not out of the postseason race, right? But yes, you do have pitchers coming back, but as we're recording, hopefully we'll know as Alex Cora starts speaking to reporters post-game, we don't even know who's going to pitch for this team Wednesday. And this is where this team is, that you are so depleted, you are so injury riddled that you don't know who's going to start less than 24 hours before your next game. And this isn't even like a competitive thing. It's not like, oh, we have Nick Pivetta on long rest, or we have a Chris Sale or a James Paxton like ready to go. Like, they don't have people ready to go. And this is a problem. And Garrett Richards did find a groove in a bullpen last year for a hot minute, but if they want to just keep blowing the season up, sure, go for it, but just stay away. Like, this team and their fans, their poor fans have endured enough. Don't make it worse on them.
Give it a week. I won't be surprised if we see a notification. I'm going to send it right back to you and be like,
right?
I'm not happy, but I guess I was right. I guess I could say I was right. But some things that, sort of annoyed me in this game, as we mentioned, Winkowski and Cordero both got called up with Eovaldi and Eric Hosmer both getting placed on IL. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the one thing that really annoyed me about placing Cordero at first base is I understand he has past experience there, and looking at what the Red Sox currently have in Worcester, the only guy that would really be able to fit that first base role with Hosmer out is Tristan Cassis. But with the Red Sox playing Cordero in center field pretty much every single game that he's been down there to work on becoming a better hitter and hopefully a little bit of a better defensive player, doesn't make any sense to me that you're going to expect him to be a reliable, good defensive first baseman when he gets 0 reps in AAA. And you already know, and there's great examples, that he cannot play first base. And it showed perfectly in the first few innings when he missed a foul ball. And it just came to my mind, it doesn't make any sense to me that you expect him to be good. And, I get, why would you put him in over Cassis? Like, I get that 1000%, but it just baffles me.
Yeah, it's the theme of what I've been saying. Like, this is where this team is at, right? And I fully expect Tristan Cassis to be here in September. I fully expect him to be part of the September call-ups. I don't want to rush him. Yes, he's hitting the cover off the ball in AAA. He was a home run shy of the cycle on Tuesday. He looks great since he returned from injury. But at this point, he's certainly not going to save the season. Fans will be able to see what he can showcase, get a small sample size out of him. But there's no need to truly rush him. And I think the WooSox and the Red Sox are just being so cautiously optimistic with him and cautious how they continue with that ankle, with his progression in Worcester. So I get it. And I know that people are mad when they see Franchy at first base. I get mad at seeing Franchy at first base too. I do. But you have Bobby Delbeck, you have Franchy Cordero, you have Eric Hosmer when he's healthy. You have three guys. Franchy's obviously the odd man out there, but it doesn't make sense. But you can bring Cassis up, but you shouldn't bring him up right now. Wait till September. Wait till you have a better picture of where this team really is with a month left in the season. You don't want to put any more added pressure on this kid when he comes up. It's like, save our season at first base. First base sucks. All eyes are going to be on Cassis. All eyes are going to be on Cassis anyway, just like all eyes are on Franchy, just for him to mess up at first base, which is going to come every time he plays there. And Eric Hosmer has been a great, like I mentioned when the Red Sox traded for him, instant defensive upgrade. Now he's on the IL. It does sound like it's going to be short, which is it's a good sign, but it's just one thing after another. This team just does not feel complete. And at the beginning of the season, when you were looking at this team on paper, they felt complete. And August 23rd, this team feels anything but complete.
Couldn't agree more. And, I 100% get why the Red Sox called up Cassis. And it wasn't just a defensive thing. I mean, when you looked at what he was doing in Worcester, I mean, in the 3-game sample, he had 2 major games. He had 3 for 5 with 2 home runs, and then he went 3 for 4 with a grand slam. I mean, obviously AAA and Major League pitching is completely different, and we saw that in his performance tonight. But still, you got to give the guy a chance. If it looks like he's completely changed his approach from a week or so and has been really hitting well. But as you mentioned, Alex Cora talked a little bit more about the Cassis call-up. And if you don't follow us on Twitter, follow us over there. It's LO_Red Sox. But we retweeted a tweet about Alex Cora talking about Cassis, and he said, from my end, we haven't talked about it, none. It hasn't been brought up to me. He hasn't played this year. He didn't play last year. That's the way I see it. He's still developing. That's my opinion. He needs to get his reps, keep getting his reps, and keep getting better. He was off for 3 months, so I think that's part of the equation. We haven't talked about that recently, but I felt like Franchy has been swinging the bat well, so we'll see how it goes this week. Hopefully we can get Hosmer back as soon as possible. So that's an update on that. Everybody and their mother who's a Red Sox fan wants Tristan Cassis up here. He's been hitting really well. Even yesterday he hit an RBI triple, has just been really seeing the ball well. But, heard it right there from the man himself. They haven't really thought about it too much. So we'll see what happens going into September. But going into our second segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, we're going to break down some of the injury updates that came out today, as well as some other moves that the Red Sox made. But before we get into that, Lauren just wants to talk to you about New Hampshire Drive Safe.
You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many. And as the evening comes to an end, people start to head out. You think calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car. I don't know. You could kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our road to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again, play it safe, plan ahead, and get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Before we start, I'm just going to re-record before we get into that, just so I can just clip it right in. So in our second segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, we're going to break down some of the injury updates as well as some moves that the Red Sox made in the last day or so. But real quick, something positive that I want to kind of talk about from this most recent game. As tough as it was, I love Kevin Millar in the booth. Other than Uke, he's my favorite former player that's been up there. And, I think something that just shows how good he is of a personality up there is when I think TK got the RBI single. He was like, Kiki, you love me. He started like singing that. He's like, I know how much he hates it. But like, seriously, his analysis, like he was breaking down like pretty much every single up at bat and pitch with some really good insider analysis.
So I think he's been fine. I genuinely enjoy Kevin Millar, and he was a big part of my teenage years with the Red Sox teams and that whole big fun 2004 team. I completely get the nostalgia there. Sometimes he just needs to shut up. And maybe people say that about me too. I don't know. But there's times where I'm like, oh my God, he's still talking. But a lot of the time I feel like he's not just like, I mean, sometimes he's just babbling, but I do like what he brings to the game. I do like that he's not too far removed from the game. Like Uke, I love Uke, which I'm very happy about because I did not like him in the preseason. And Uke and Millar, they're just, like I said, they're not too far removed from the game. Fans like you and me know what kind of attitude and what kind of spark they brought to this team back in the day. And it's fun to have him in there. I also think he brings a lot of life to OB. And OB is a big radio guy, right? He's all radio, and that's hard to translate to TV. So it's nice to see him kind of just bring a little life to the broadcast when OB is involved, which is pretty much all the time.
And it's nice that there'll be like great villains, hopefully for next year for Dennis Eckersley. I hope they keep both of them there, and I hope they take Tony Maserati out because I can't stand him on the broadcast.
I love Maz. I know I'm in the minority there. I love Maz. He brings something that players can't bring. He's a local kid from Watertown. I love it. And I think a lot of people can't separate the radio Maz from the booth Maz. I love it. And I love what he can bring. And I know, like I said, probably in the minority there, but I love him in the booth. I want him to stick around.
He just frustrates the heck out of me sometimes.
He's a Boston radio personality. That's his job.
even with like the ejection thing, he was like blaming Bogaerts, and I'm like, all right, relax, man.
Well, Bogaerts shouldn't have got thrown out there. That he knows better.
It was a bad call.
It was a bad call, but he shouldn't have got thrown out there. I'm with Maz.
But looking into some of the injury updates from the last day or so, we saw happen one actually in the game. Ironically enough, JBJ hit a ball out to center field, and Tommy Pham hit into the wall and got taken out of the game after banging up against the wall. And looks like he could have hurt his back. So I'm curious to see sort of what repercussions come from that, if he's out at all, but just keeps on coming.
It's tough because Pham just jammed up his back over the weekend, and he was like, IL is not an option. I'm going to be good. He only misses a game, gets right back into the lineup, and then potentially hurts it again. It did just come in that Alex Cora did say that both Tommy Pham and Xander Bogaerts will be out on Wednesday. They'll have to make a move for position player, and Brian Bayo will be activated to start Wednesday. So we do have a starter for Wednesday. Bad news on Tommy Pham and Xander Bogaerts, but it's like, you watch the play, and that wall out there, the green monster, it's not kind to players. It's not kind to Red Sox players. It's not kind to opponents. And it's a difficult wall to play. We've seen many players get hurt, both Red Sox and visiting teams, but it's so unfortunate, especially someone like Tommy Pham, who has been a bright spot since being traded to Boston. He's getting hits constantly. He's driving in runs. He's doing everything that you want a trade piece to do. He's made an immediate impact. And now it's just what we talked about in the first segment, that they need to have that next man up mentality. But where does that next man up mentality come from? I am tired.
Me too. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's either Jeter Downs or Jalen Davis, who have both been abysmal in Worcester over the last week or so. But they're the only two guys who are on the 40-man roster. So it would be those two guys for the positional call-up. But also looking at some moves that were made that we referred to in the first segment. Nathan Eovaldi heading to the 15-day IL, retroactive till August 19th. He's been bothered by soreness in his neck and the right shoulder. And then first baseman Eric Hosmer, as we mentioned as well, on the injured list, the 10-day IL retroactive until August 21st. And he's been sidelined due to lower back inflammation. And then also another move as well, very insignificant. Danny Santana was released from the Red Sox. I know you're super sad about this, Lauren. Played 7 games in rookie ball, which I didn't even know about. Batted .286 this year with 5 RBIs. But, besides the Santana move, unfortunate to see both Eovaldi and Hosmer, as we mentioned in the first segment, being sidelined, which just continues to pile up these injuries.
It does. And I think that we unfortunately saw the Eovaldi thing coming, especially when his second start got skipped. It was just kind of like that, oh no, he's not responding to the treatment. And he obviously needs his arm and his trap muscles to be the best pitcher he can be. So hopefully it's just those 15 days. And I'm almost at the point where I'm just like, shut everybody down. And Eovaldi, he's on a contract year. So he obviously wants to showcase that he can either fight for an extension here in Boston or earn a nice payday elsewhere. And Hosmer, it's just unfortunate because he's, like we mentioned in the first segment, he's a nice defensive upgrade, obviously over Cordero and Bobby Delbeck. And also, his wife, Casey, is very pregnant. She is due any day now. So he could come back from the IL and then be away from the team again, understandably so. So it's just constant. What next? What shoe is going to drop next with this Red Sox team? Who's going to get injured next? We saw Devers get hit in the hand or the wrist area on Tuesday night as well, and he did stay in the game, but it's never going to feel good when you're getting drilled with a pitch. And he looked to be in some pain there. You have Bogaerts injured again, and it's just, like I said, just shut everyone down. We'll try again next year. Let's unplug the Red Sox, give them a nice rest, and come back in 2023, because I just feel like the deeper or the closer we get to the end of the season, the more these injuries just continue to pile up. And when you lose someone especially like Eovaldi, who's been able to give you innings, maybe he's not the most consistent, maybe he's not giving you the strongest outings, but he's giving you those innings. I worry about Bayo starting, because what's he going to give you? 2-3 innings? And then you have to go back to the bullpen, which was taxed after Tuesday. It's never ending for this Red Sox team.
Yeah, you don't know what version of Brian Bayo you're going to get. I mean, you saw a little bit of a better version during his last start right before he got taken out, which led to this injury, but you don't really know. From what we've seen, he's very inconsistent. Hitters are very easily able to hit hard balls off of him. So hopefully, we're able to see a different, more improved Brian Bayo, but not really, holding our breath for it. But last thing that I want to mention before we go into our third and final segment is, looking towards 2023, one guy, since I've started working for the WooSox, and even when I went back before I worked for them, that has really impressed me down there in the bullpen is Frank Herrmann. I don't know if you remember, for anybody who's listening, he was a guy who was just tossed right in with Adam Ottavino. The Red Sox traded both of those guys for cash considerations. They got him and I told Derek this, for less than a bag of chips, for barely, pretty much free. And it's pretty crazy because between Portland and AAA, he's a 5-2 record, 2.53 ERA over 42 innings. He only has 18 walks, has only allowed 21 hits in 42 innings, and has struck out 57 batters. And guy who's 24 years old, I think you really got to start looking at maybe giving him a shot next season in the bullpen, because he's been the most impressive arm out of the bullpen for the Red Sox, for the WooSox, and he's got might as well see what he's got and if he can help you in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a very good candidate too for the September call-ups. I mean, at this point, like I said, and like we've said for a while now, what do the Red Sox have to lose in just trying to see what they have? If they can get an idea of something, and especially when you get to the September call-ups, when you get toward the end of the season, a lot of teams start resting their starters or start giving some guys extra days off between games because they want to be ready and they want to be healthy for the postseason. So why not just kind of get those younger guys in there, see what you potentially have in them, get them a full off season of good work, some good spring training games. I mean, we saw Ryan Fitzgerald become a fan favorite in spring training, and he's still a fan favorite down in Worcester.
You saw he got his own merch?
Yeah, like he's loving life, and he's just feel like he's doing everything right as a WooSox player and as somebody who's within the Boston organization. But like, why not at this point? Because it just seems like the wild card, it's obviously getting farther and farther away. It doesn't seem like it's as realistic as it was 3-4 weeks ago, even a week ago. So just why not bring them all up? And then it's like Tristan Cassis is still playing in Worcester, so it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, another guy that I could see going up is Abraham Almonte. He's been very consistent for the WooSox. And then I wouldn't be surprised if Ronaldo Hernandez or Connor Wong or both of them come up, because they have both been hitting very well, not only over the last month or so, but over the entire season for the WooSox. And, they're both vying for that backup catcher situation when Kevin Pilecki is eventually free agent after this season. But, even though we don't know who the starter is tomorrow for the Red Sox, you can bet on them on betonline.net. Is the fastest and easiest way for you to check in on all your betting needs and find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. You can also find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be your top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action that is happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So going into our third and final segment, we do the mental health minute, but I also thought it would be kind of cool to switch it up a little bit. I know that there is a lot of people that listen to us, whether you're older, whether you're younger, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some people who listen to us who would really like to get into sports, or who are aspiring, sports professional and are either in college or whatever. But something that, I've really noticed from my last year being out of college and working in sports is being curious about what different opportunities are out there, especially when college kids are going to school at the end of August and going into September. For most minor league baseball teams, they play all of August and all of September. And that's honestly one of the biggest reasons, not only from my experience, but how I got the WooSox position is, I took advantage of the opportunity when kids were going back to school. Same thing with any other minor league team that your city has or whatever. It doesn't have to be baseball. It could either be basketball, hockey. I won't be surprised, but be curious and try and look for those different opportunities, when they might be short-staffed or at the end of the season. Even if you work 5 games, it's experience. It's a resume builder. And just be curious and just reach out, and you never know.
Yeah, you really do never know. And even when you do go back to college, look at colleges in your area. Or if you're just fresh out of college, look at colleges in your area for freelance opportunities with their sports teams. And I know, in New England, there's tons of schools good schools with good sports teams that would probably love to have just some extra help. And, same with the minor league teams, especially like you mentioned, when kids start going back to college. And even, when you have a team like the Cape League here in Massachusetts, I don't know what other teams are out there across the country like that are equivalent to the Cape League, but take advantage of something like that too, just to get, like you said, that experience. And they'll put you wherever you want to go. They might have you on graphics one night. You might be just trying to maybe do replay one night. There's so much there behind the scenes in a control room when it comes to production, even when on the digital side with social media, with content producing. There's so many different areas of this field where it will never hurt you to explore. And then it also helps. You could go in and think you want to do something, and maybe you're curious about something, and you could be like, never mind. I don't know why I was curious about that, but then and then you go look for jobs, and you're like, okay, that's not something I want to do. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste their time. So like you said, be curious, seek out opportunities, and don't be afraid to just reach out to athletic directors and PR directors, PR people for teams, because it helps and it gets you noticed at the end of the day.
And even if they say no, as you mentioned, it gets you noticed, and it helps you start the relationship. And even if they say no at that moment, they'll keep you in mind for the future. But I think it'd be cool to, mix up some of the mental health minute with also some advice for aspiring sports professionals, because, I've had a year and a half under my belt. You have eight plus years, you know what I mean? So I think we each have different things that we've learned. Me from my short time, you from your long career, that I think people would be able to take value from. But as always, if you have not yet, make sure to subscribe on whatever audio platform that you're listening to. Also over on YouTube, we post Monday through Friday, always talking about the Red Sox to keep you updated about everything that's going on about the team. We greatly appreciate everybody making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day, and make your second listen Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings you humor, passion, and his unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Also, as I mentioned, we referred to this great tweet that we retweeted earlier today on our Twitter, Locked On Red Sox. We try to keep you as updated as possible through that channel. So make sure to go over and follow us over there. It's LO_Red Sox. Also follow myself. It's at Jake Iggy, and also Lauren. It's 3 laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, we hope that you have a great rest of your day, and we'll end it how we always end it. Let's go Sox. Peace.